Breaking news, Vikings fans, a shocking move has just rocked the NFL and nobody saw this coming. The Minnesota Vikings have pulled off a jaw-dropping trade that is sending shockwaves through the league. This blockbuster transaction is set to change the landscape of the team's offense, and fans are in absolute disbelief what just happened and how will this unexpected move impact the future of the Vikings. Stay tuned because we are diving deep into every detail of this game-changing decision. Sources confirm that the San Francisco 49ers and the Minnesota Vikings have finalized a trade that nobody saw coming in a move that reshapes the backfield in Minnesota and leaves 49ers fans stunned. This surprising exchange involves a player who stepped up in a major way last season and proved he could be a dominant force on the field. Insiders reveal that Minnesota's front office had been aggressively looking to strengthen their rushing attack, and they found the perfect piece to fit their plans by making a deal with San Francisco. What makes this move even more intriguing is that it was not just a simple trade between teams. It came with a brand new contract, locking in the player for the next 2 seasons with millions guaranteed. This sends a clear message that the Vikings are not just looking for depth. They are making a serious commitment to enhancing their offensive firepower. While San Francisco had initially placed a high-value tag on the player, recent developments led them to part ways instead of holding on to him at an elevated cost. But what led to this unexpected trade, and how did the Vikings manage to pull it off with a strategic draft pick swap and a future selection? Minnesota secured a player who had an explosive impact last season, stepping up as the lead rusher in key games. This acquisition means the Vikings now have a formidable duo in their backfield, and fans are already buzzing about the potential fireworks that could be unleashed on the field with this game-changing addition. But what exactly does this mean for the Vikings moving forward, and how will this player fit into the system? Stay tuned as we break down the full impact of this stunning move. The Minnesota Vikings have been making aggressive moves this offseason, and this latest acquisition further solidifies their commitment to building a dominant offense. Jordan Mason is now officially part of the Vikings backfield after Minnesota executed a calculated trade with the San Francisco 49ers, securing a young and dynamic running back who showcased his potential in a major way. Last season, sources confirmed that Mason has agreed to a 2-year contract with the Vikings that includes $7 million fully guaranteed with a maximum value of $12 million. This deal not only locks in a talented rusher, but also demonstrates the Vikings' determination to strengthen their running game. Minnesota sent a 2026 6th-round pick to San Francisco as part of the trade, while also swapping picks in this year's NFL draft, moving up from pick number 187 to pick number 160. Insiders indicate that the move was driven by the Vikings' priority to provide additional support for their star running back Aaron Jones, who recently signed a 2-year $20 million deal last season. Jones shouldered a heavy workload, setting career highs in touches and offensive snaps. But with Mason now in the mix, Minnesota has a powerful 1-2 punch that could elevate their offensive efficiency. Mason stepped into a crucial role for the 49ers last season, when Christian McCaffrey was sidelined with an Achilles injury in 6 starts. He accumulated an impressive 789 rushing yards on 153 carries, averaging over 5 yards per attempt and scoring 3 touchdowns. His ability to perform at a high level in a lead role made him an attractive option for the Vikings front office, who had been scouting potential additions to the backfield. Despite his success, San Francisco opted to place a 2nd-round tender on Mason, guaranteeing him $5.3 million for 2025, but ultimately decided to move on from him rather than commit to a higher salary for a backup running back. With this trade completed, the Vikings now have a backfield built for success, and Mason is set to play a key role alongside Jones. But how will this duo change the dynamics of the Vikings offense, and what does this mean for the team's playoff aspirations? Stay tuned as we analyze the full impact of this unexpected acquisition. With Jordan Mason now in Minnesota, the Vikings have secured a versatile running back who has proven he can handle a lead role when called upon. Originally, an undrafted free agent out of Georgia Tech in 2022. Mason earned his place on the 49ers roster through special teams, but quickly showcased his ability to be a productive rusher in limited opportunities. During his first 2 seasons, he averaged 6 yards per carry in 2022 and 5.2 yards per attempt in 2023, flashing efficiency. Even in a crowded backfield last season, Mason stepped up in a major way. When Christian McCaffrey missed time due to injuries in just 6 starts, he posted 300-yard rushing games, including a career-high 147 yards on 28 carries in a dominant week. One performance against the New York Jets, his ability to produce at a high level in key moments, made him an attractive target for the Vikings, who have been actively retooling their offense this offseason to provide stability in their running game. The trade for Mason follows a series of aggressive roster moves by Minnesota aimed at building a stronger offensive unit in addition to re-signing Aaron Jones. The Vikings also invested heavily in their offensive line, bringing in center Ryan Kelly and right guard Will Fries on multi-year deals worth a combined $107 million. These moves indicate a clear strategy to create a more balanced attack, allowing the run game to play a bigger role in the team's offensive scheme. Last season, the Vikings ranked 19th in rushing yards and 29th in rushing touchdowns, struggling to establish consistency on the ground. With the addition of Mason, they now have another powerful option to pair with Jones, ensuring that their backfield remains productive and durable throughout the season. While San Francisco had initially hoped to retain Mason by placing a second-round tender on him, the 49ers ultimately decided to move on rather than commit to a higher salary for a backup running back. Their current depth chart now features McCaffrey, Isaac Guerendo, and Patrick Taylor Jr., but with McCaffrey and Guerendo both recovering from knee injuries, the Niners may need to explore further options to reinforce their backfield as the Vikings continue their offseason overhaul. The question remains, how will Mason's arrival impact the team's offensive identity, and what role will he play in their pursuit of a playoff return? Stay tuned as we break down the next phase of Minnesota's evolving roster strategy. Jordan Mason's arrival in Minnesota is more than just another offseason move. It signals a clear shift in the Vikings' strategy to create a well-rounded backfield capable of sustaining success throughout the season. After relying heavily on Aaron Jones in 2024, the team made it a priority to find a reliable complementary piece who could not only spell Jones when needed, but also step up as a legitimate rushing threat. In his own right, Mason fits that mold perfectly, having demonstrated his ability to take on a lead role when necessary. His breakout performances with the 49ers last season proved he could handle a significant workload and produce at an elite level. When given the opportunity last season, Mason was thrust into the spotlight when Christian McCaffrey suffered an Achilles injury, sidelining him for a large portion of the year. In that time, Mason started 6 games and quickly established himself as one of the league's most efficient runners, amassing 789 rushing yards on 153 attempts, averaging over 5 yards per carry, and scoring 3 touchdowns. His performance included 3 games with over 100 rushing yards, one of which saw him carry the ball 28 times for a career-high 147 yards in a dominant week, 1 victory over the Jets. But just as he was gaining momentum, his season was cut short by a high ankle sprain that landed him on injured reserve for the final 5 games. Despite the setback, his production was enough to attract serious interest from other teams, and the Vikings wasted no time in making a move to bring him to Minnesota by securing Mason. The Vikings now have a backfield that can function in multiple ways. Jones remains the primary option, but Mason's presence allows the team to manage workloads more effectively, reducing the wear and tear on their lead back over the course of the season. Last year, Jones recorded a career-high 306 touches, a number the Vikings coaching staff has expressed interest in lowering to keep him fresh and productive throughout the year. Mason's addition also provides insurance in case of injuries, ensuring the team does not suffer a drop-off in production if Jones misses time with their new offensive line acquisitions, including center Ryan Kelly and guard Will Fries. The Vikings are building an offensive unit designed to dominate in the trenches and establish a strong rushing attack that can wear down opposing defenses. San Francisco's decision to part ways with Mason was largely financial rather than performance-based. After placing a second-round restricted free agent tender on him at $5.3 million for 2025, the 49ers had the option to match any competing offers or receive draft compensation. But given their already high salary commitments and the need to allocate resources elsewhere, they opted instead to negotiate a trade. The final deal saw San Francisco receive a 2026 sixth-round pick from Minnesota, along with a draft pick swap in 2025 that moved them up 27 spots from pick 187 to pick 160 in hindsight. The 49ers' decision to let Mason go raises questions about their depth at running back. Their current roster still includes Christian McCaffrey, Isaac Guerendo, and Patrick Taylor Jr. But both McCaffrey and Guerendo are recovering from knee injuries, leaving San Francisco thin at the position. This trade could force them to explore additional options either in free agency or through the upcoming NFL draft, where several highly regarded running back prospects are expected to be available for the Vikings. This move solidifies their backfield and positions them to make a serious push for a playoff return. But how will Mason be utilized in Kevin O'Connell's offensive system, and what impact will he have on the team's overall strategy? Stay tuned as we continue breaking down the implications of this game-changing acquisition. While the Vikings made a calculated decision to acquire Jordan Mason, the trade also raised questions about the 49ers' backfield depth and their willingness to part with a running back who had proven to be a reliable contributor despite placing a second-round restricted free agent tender on Mason. San Francisco ultimately chose not to retain him, given their current salary cap situation and the need to prioritize other roster moves. With Christian McCaffrey still recovering from multiple injuries and the team relying on unproven options like Isaac Guerendo and Patrick Taylor Jr., the decision to trade Mason leaves San Francisco vulnerable at the position heading into the upcoming NFL season. This move signals that the 49ers could be looking to the draft or free agency to add depth to their running game. Minnesota, on the other hand, saw an opportunity and seized it. The addition of Mason is expected to provide significant benefits to the Vikings offense. Kevin O'Connell has emphasized the importance of creating a balanced attack, and with Aaron Jones already in place, Mason gives the team another dynamic weapon in the backfield. Last season, the Vikings struggled to establish consistency in the running game, finishing 19th in rushing yards and 29th in rushing touchdowns. With the arrival of Mason, those numbers are expected to improve drastically. O'Connell spoke earlier this offseason about his desire to grow the Vikings' run game and create a more complete offense, highlighting the need for a strong 1-2 punch in the backfield. Jones, who had previously worked in a timeshare role for most of his career, saw an increase in workload last season, handling 306 touches a career. High for the veteran. While his production remained elite, the coaching staff recognized the need to bring in another reliable rusher to keep him fresh throughout the year. Mason's ability to contribute as both a power runner and a playmaker in space makes him an ideal complement to Jones, allowing the Vikings to deploy a more diverse rushing attack. Another major factor in Minnesota's decision to acquire Mason was his ability to step up in big moments. Last season, when McCaffrey was sidelined, Mason delivered 3 100-yard rushing performances in his first 4 starts, demonstrating his ability to carry the load and produce at a high level. His consistency in short yardage situations and his ability to break tackles make him a valuable asset for the Vikings, especially in crucial late-game scenarios. With a reinforced offensive line featuring new acquisitions, Ryan Kelly and Will Fries, the Vikings are set up to create running lanes and control the line of scrimmage, providing both Jones and Mason with the opportunity to thrive. While Mason will initially slot in as the number 2 running back behind Jones, his role could expand depending on how the season unfolds. The Vikings coaching staff has made it clear that they want to utilize their backfield efficiently, and having a player like Mason who can step into a lead role when necessary gives them flexibility in their offensive approach. The impact of this trade extends beyond just the running game, as it also gives the Vikings a stronger offensive identity heading into the new season. But how will this revamped backfield translate to actual game situations, and what can fans expect from the Vikings' new rushing attack? Stay tuned as we break down the potential long-term effects of this blockbuster move. The addition of Jordan Mason to the Minnesota Vikings roster is part of several moves made to strengthen the team after an impressive 14-3 record in 2024, but an early playoff exit. Over the past week, the Vikings have signed or re-signed 12 players, signaling their push for a deeper postseason run. Mason provides much-needed depth to the backfield, shaking up the running back depth chart. With Ty Chandler and Cam Akers now pushed down, Mason's proven reliability in high-pressure situations makes him the clear choice to be the primary backup to Aaron Jones. Mason's versatility also gives the Vikings options in the passing game, allowing for more creative formations. Financially, Mason's contract includes $7 million fully guaranteed over 2 years, with a potential value of $12 million, providing long-term flexibility. This move offers Mason a fresh opportunity to prove himself, and his excitement on social media hints at his eagerness to take on this new role. Vikings fans are excited to see the reshaped backfield, and with a mix of veteran leadership in Jones and emerging talent in Mason, the Vikings are poised for a strong rushing attack. How will this new backfield perform in 2025? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates on the Minnesota Vikings.